Hello, one and all. Much to discuss from Pacers Nets. Another Pacers loss, number 4 in a row since their 3-game win streak. And a theme in these, they've been awful in all of them. The fourth straight game, the Pacers have trailed by at least 17 points at one point. 3 of those, it's been 20 plus. Memphis was 17, was the peak deficit. Tonight, in the Pacers' 99-90 loss in Brooklyn to the Nets, their peak deficit was 21. Now, that's not a fair way to discuss this game because the Pacers actually erased all of that 21-point deficit. They came roaring back and tied it up in the fourth quarter at 80, right? So, yes, they played awful early and were down 21. They played good enough to get rid of that. They still lost by 9 to the Nets, and the totality of the game, I think, is what represents the reality the Pacers are in. And so this game recap is both a game recap and a big picture look at this not very good Indiana Pacers team. And it's not about they've been hurt and they'll get better at some point, or Tyrese Haliburton should turn a corner, or anything else with this Pacers team anymore. This is a long stretch of bad play, and they might just not be very good. And in fact, the evidence says it's probably more than might. They're just potentially a not good team this year. Tyrese Haliburton played 37 minutes in this game. So did Pascal Siakam. This is the second night of a back-to-back. They both played a lot last night. Pacers lost both of those games. Just not a good team. So what happened? They scored 90. That's their 4th time under 100 this season. That is unbelievable to me. It's almost hard to fathom that that's where the Pacers are at. Last year, they scored 99 once. That was their only time under 100 the entire season when they had the second best offense in the NBA. They were only under 105 6 times last year, 7 times last year, right? They were a machine. Points. Easy 100, often 120. This year, 4 times under 100, 5 times under 110. Just can't happen. They have not won a game scoring less than 114, which has happened 8 times now. Their offense is a little broken. Their defense still stinks. It stunk last year. It stinks again this year. And in this Nets game, the offense was the one that got them to the losing part of this. 90 points. They had 16 turnovers, which is of both a fact and does not tell the story of their turnovers. In the first quarter, third quarter, and fourth quarter combined, the Pacers had 4 turnovers. That's very good. That sounds wonderful. They had 12 in the second quarter. They actually had 0 in the third, which was their best quarter by far, and 0 in the first. 12 in the second quarter and 4 in the fourth quarter was all the 16 Pacers turnovers. The second quarter Pacers were 6 for 16 with 12 turnovers. Scored 18 points. Pathetic offensive stuff. 35 points at halftime of this game. They actually scored fewer points in the first quarter than a 12 turnover quarter. What is that? First quarter, they went 7 for 23 with only 1 offensive rebound. They made 1 3. They just couldn't make anything. It took them a lot of work to get a decent shot up. So very perplexing how bad they were. And very perplexing to see their offense this bad, even with their 2 stars available. Yes, lots of other good players are not playing for them. But that doesn't get them to this product, right? Everything has been different. Their bench is less potent. Tyrese Haliburton hasn't been as good. They don't have as much power on the wings. Miles Turner's been fine, but not as what he was at last year. Their pace isn't there. It's just different, right? And they can and have overcome that in various ways this year, whether it's someone stepping up or like a rare good defensive night, or their clutch play has been great. Their clutch play is the only reason their record is not embarrassing. They're still in the play-in spot right now. The East is that bad, right? But they've had to find other random ways to win because their offense stinks and their defense hasn't been good. Their defense was actually okay in this game, but their offense was dreadful. 35 points and a half. You can't overcome that. And what makes this stuff from the Pacers so weird and for fans of the team infuriating is that they have pockets of every game where they look awesome, right? Even just looking back at this stretch that they're currently in, right? Tonight, they were down 21 in the first half, and they came back and tied the game. They had an awesome third quarter scoring, kept it going into the early part of the fourth, tied the game at 80, had all the momentum, and showed they had a level against Brooklyn where they could score 35 and a quarter, and they could not turn it over, and they could shoot it well enough, and they could score enough to destroy the Brooklyn Nets. And then it just went away, and it wasn't there in the first half. They played Memphis earlier this week. They scored 45 points in the first quarter. They were up 17. They were, at one point in that game, down 17, a 34-point swing. Their peak and valley difference is enormous. Toronto, the night before this game, They were down as much as 24, got it within 2, right? So clearly had a stretch where they were very good. Didn't matter at all, right? It's just so weird that they have this. They played Detroit in between all that. They had 33 in the fourth that game out of their 106. Pulling teeth the rest of the way. Defense was awful that whole game. They gave up 130. It's just so odd that this is who they are, but they're not consistent at all. They have no punch for 48 minutes. They had one good game to me where they felt very consistent in what they were doing for 48 minutes, once. And that was their last road win over a month ago in Dallas against the Mavericks. One of their best wins of the season. It's just a bad basketball team right now. And I understand the Pacers thinking we're working through stuff. We feel like the process is getting better. We're finding solutions all the time. Tonight, Johnny Furphy was a solution. For example, he played very well. It's probably not something he wants to rely on. He's a rookie, but he was good in this game. And some nights it's Jarris Walker, and some nights it's not a consistent thing. And they have not the identity from last year. They can't stop anybody. And when they do, they don't score enough. This is their second loss, holding a team under 100 because they only scored 90 points. That's crazy to think for this Pacers team. So they're just bad. They just have to figure out either how to get their pace and offensive pop back from last year or get their defense up to average if they're going to play this slow and score this little. And they haven't done either of those things. 9-14 are the Indiana Pacers. That did not happen at all last year. Their fewest wins in a 23-game stretch last season when they made the conference finals, won 47 games, had the in-season tournament run, was 11-12. That's almost 500. That's fine. Like, I think a lot of people would be happy if the Pacers were 11-12 right now, even with their process, because that would mean they've snuck out wins and proved they could win ugly and survive the injuries. Instead, they're 9-14. 2 years ago, that was their last stretch where they had a 9-14 stretch. It was very late in the season. They had a lot of stretches that season with that record, but before Haliburton got hurt that year, they didn't. It was really at the end when they were not going for wins. There's only really been 2 times since I've been covering the Pacers, which is approaching 10 years, not quite, that they didn't have this happen at all. And that was early 2021-22, before the Haliburton trade. Carlisle was a new coach. That team was full of injury-prone guys, Malcolm Brogdon, Karis LeVert, TJ Warren, and they were trying to win and could not do it. They eventually pivoted completely off of that team. Now, it felt different then because the season before that, they went under 500 instead of making the conference finals, so expectations were not very high, and they even had decent stretches then. They were like in 8th in the East and like 3 games under 500 or something at one point. It all fell apart, of course, and they traded to get to this point, but that felt different, but that team was trying to win at least somewhat and couldn't, and they blew it up. The other time they tried to win and couldn't was after Victor Oladipo got hurt in 2018-19. They closed that season 9-14, got swept in the first round. It's very rare for a team that is trying very hard to win to have a stretch this poor. But that's where the Pacers are, and that shows it. I mean, everything shows it, but that really, finding those examples proved it to me. They have to find something. They have to figure out something. The season is not in danger of derailing because the East is so bad, but if you're in the play-in, you're playing the Cavs or the Celtics in the first round. Good luck with that. Have fun. So they've got to figure something out, and very soon. Whether it's a way to get their identity back from last year or get their stars going or defend a little better. And none of that seems even kind of within their grasp right now. They got Chicago on Friday. I'll be up there. And that's a game against a team that plays like them or tries to play like they did last year. Fast, score, no defense. Pacers can win that, and they really need to. Because this could get out of hand quickly. We'll cover that game here and many more. Fever video tomorrow morning on the expansion draft too, for those of you watching for that. Thanks for tuning in today, guys, for much more on this game. Check out Locked On Pacers. See you soon.